Hey everybody, and welcome to Keeping It Spiritually Simple. And today my guest is Elizabeth Wood. She's a seer scientist. And what exactly does that mean? Well, she has her degrees in science, and she's spiritual, and she's an advanced seer. So she's the bridge between the two. It's that simple, hence the word seer scientist. And we will have her links in the description for more information. But for time purposes, because she's a very, very busy lady, we're going to jump right in. So, Elizabeth, we were just saying that so many people are getting so much information from this old programming of outside of you, and it's overwhelming the human and what the heck to do at this time. And we're in between this just bizarre time of what's going on up there, quantum, what's happening here on the surface. And there's just so much that I think some people just want to freaking give up because they're just on overload. So if we could maybe talk about what you see going on in the next 3 to 6 months, and how can people just hone it in so it works in their avatar, in their world, in their homes.
Oh,
So
thank you
please.
so much. I think it's so important to cover all of this because it's getting really dramatic and it's just really starting to rev up. And for some folks, we've been involved in these sorts of things for decades, so we expect it to get the way it's been getting, but we're in a very unusual time of war. And it's not a normal war. It's not a war that you can watch things getting blown up so easily. So it's more of an etheric war, and the things that are getting blown up are illusions, and that's shattering all the time. And so you're watching it because people are not buying into the things they're being told anymore, and now they're starting to question everything if they hadn't before. But what qualifies me to even talk about the future at all is because I'm a futurist, and so I study how culture changes and why it changes. And I'll give you the secret to being sure that you can surf these changes so that you don't find yourself so overwhelmed, because that's how it feels. It feels like a crushing amount of energy and a wave of power, perhaps we could say, that keeps putting us into a place of dense emotional turmoil. So the secret to being able to ride these waves, because I do see that they will continue, it will continue to slough off more and more and more of our illusions. And ultimately, this is a good thing, but it's very uncomfortable because we don't get to have the same comfort anymore in this world. There isn't anywhere that you can go to find comfort at this point, which is a bit scary. So the secret is that you need to examine your beliefs every day, and you need to examine your material world. The material world includes your body. But in culture change theory, we know that when you change people's beliefs and when you change their material world at the same time, you create very, very fast culture change. And you can use that concept in your own life. So being very conscious that your beliefs are constantly changing, your language is changing, and that is something that's normal and natural for what we would call the superstructure. Superstructure is, in cultural concepts, what humans do. We create culture. That's what humans do. We're doing it right now. And when we create culture, there's sort of an oil on the water phenomena that we call the superstructure. And that's stuff that you can't hold. It's ideas and beliefs and thoughts and hopes and dreams and all sorts of inventions, things that are really produced by your spirit and your mind. And then we start to work with, well, what relationships do I need to have in order to make these things occur that I believe? You're doing it all the time. You're constantly reinforcing your beliefs through your relationships. And then we reinforce it even more by putting it into a political economic state. You can't unmarry politics and economics. They literally exist because of each other. So when you look at how do you get your needs met? What are the rules and guidelines that you have to follow to get those needs met and make sure those inventions or ideas happen in the world? And then, of course, probably the most important part is, well, how are you using your body in the material world to make it occur? And what resources do you have or do not have? So when you examine your beliefs and your ideas, your hopes, your dreams all the time, especially your fears, I like to ask the question every day I wake up and I say, what am I afraid of? And I ask it every day, multiple times a day. And I find new stuff every day that I have a fear reaction to. At this point now, it's very esoteric. But at first it would be really material, like, well, I'm afraid of my children dying prematurely, or I'm afraid of my animals not being safe, or, really straightforward things that we could all say, yeah, I have that too. And as you chip away at it, as you recognize your fear, it starts to change your relationships. It changes how you end up meeting your needs in the world. And it changes your relationship with your body in the material world. You begin to recognize that you're a creator being. So you're heading towards a platform that we might call your surfboard, that is the concept, I am a creator being. And when we recognize that you're creating everything, when you hook into the news today, or when you listen to someone speaking, you're creating whatever energetics in your field that you want to create. And the biggest illusion that's going to shatter, Sandy, is going to be this idea that we don't have any control, that we're just helpless, that we're just, going through all of these moves and eventually it'll all get better and we're going to be fine. That's not what's happening. All the structures are crumbling. All the social and political economic structures are crumbling. And the material world is rising up to meet us. Gaia and nature and natural law are rising up to meet us and reminding us we've been here all along. This is what the golden age will be built on, is us recognizing, no, every time I do listen to the news, I create more fear in my body. I create more fear in my life. I'm not so sure any of that's totally true because I'm not there. And I can't trust any of that. What can I trust? I can trust my gut. I can trust my heart. I can trust the people who I've chose to be around me because I've created these relationships. I can trust the earth, that I can go outside right now and step upon the planet. I can trust that. That's down to the basics of what you can trust right now and what you should trust. So the outcome over the next 3 to 6 months is the great shattering, we're going to call it. The great shattering. And it's going to be multitudes of layers of shattering. The shattering of any trust in agencies with 3 letters, the shattering in any trust in grand governance, the shattering in the global ideal for one anything, the shattering of our comfort zones, the shattering of our belief that, hey, well, I pay my taxes, so I should have the right to have my lights on or the right to own this property. No, you don't. All of that's been taken away now. And all of the ways that it has been taken away are going to be revealed over the next 3 to 6 months. So when you recognize, wow, I'm stuck in a slave system, well, recognize that you're afraid of being stuck in a slave system and then dissolve it, because you're not stuck. And yes, there is a slave system, but that doesn't have anything to do with you. If you decide not to opt in to a system or to be governed by any body or any person, then you don't play the game. So it's kind of going to be this interesting phenomena of consciousness and humanity deciding to opt out and be neutral as creator beings and focus in on, hey, what am I going to create that's actually going to help me thrive and my family thrive? bringing the attention back to your creator being status, and then anyone else who's still part of the system because of their comfort zone. And there's going to be more and more and more of this sort of sifting. And this happens regularly every year. There's always a sifting. There's an energetic sifting. When you shake stuff up in consciousness, there's a sifting between the people whose energies are really big and they're conscious about it, and the people who don't feel so big and they're unconscious. And this happens constantly, this sifting between different kinds of consciousness. But the amazing news is that there's more and more and more people who are recognizing my field is big. I have a presence here that's beyond my understanding. Your brain will catch up to all of this. But the human collective, what they're going through right now is a continued sifting, and there's going to be a really very, very big one in January of 2023 that will feel like a huge shakeup in consciousness. And it might be really subtle at first, just like an earthquake starts just a little bit at first, and then it really shakes stuff up. And that's what's going to unfold over into spring. And so I saw the great need to talk about natural law, to be able to teach people about galactic and natural earthly law and how these things work, how we can depend on those laws, that those laws are built into our bodies already, that we don't have to create a whole bunch of new things. It's already there. And that's rising up out of the rubble too. All the templates of consciousness that have been left behind by our ancestors for us at the 12,000 year shift, which we're in right now. The other thing that's going to happen is over the next 6 months, people are going to start to learn more about the 12,000 year shift. And they're going to get really mad because we've been completely put in the dark about what's happening with our planet. People are going to be genuinely upset that the electromagnetic field is literally 30% gone already. Why hasn't anybody been telling us this? What's going to happen with the sun? What goes on with the 12,000 year shift? Exactly. Why is it so important for us to prepare? Why haven't we been told? And what that's going to lead to is a recognition that you haven't been told because the powers that be don't want you here. And you got invited to this party. You got invited to be in a human body. You got invited because you're the bravest of all of the guides that you've had, or the support you've had, or the souls that you knew. You're the bravest, you're the strongest. And so you're here to be part of this shift because we're moving into an 800,000 year shift too. There's lots of gates opening, not just one. And what that looks like is very dramatic and really intense, because now we're going to be asked to be a new species. And you don't just become a new species. You have to go through a lot of trouble to become a new species. And that's what we're in. We're in the trouble. But just like any wave, you can surf it. You can be objective. You can be the one who can help people understand it. You can be the one who can see the bigger picture and not be afraid, because that's not why you're here. You're not here to hide in your cozy corner in consciousness. You're here to actually get some things done, including being a wellspring of blessings. There's a lot of people I know and serve who are disabled, or they're elderly, or they're sick, and you can't just get out of bed and go, preach to the world about the changes coming as easily. So then bless people, push more light into the system, send blessings, send the angelic, pray. That counts. And in consciousness, it counts a lot more than you realize. Be willing to be a hurricane of energy that lifts all of this nasty stuff off the planet, and all the dark energies dissolves them, so that then there's more light. Just do that. You can do that while you're in bed. All you need to know is, hey, Source God, show me what I need to put my attention on today, and be willing. So the willingness, the creator being status, the recognition that your beliefs and your material world run the show when it comes to your creator being status. If you can start to freshen up your material life, get rid of things and update things and make sure you're not holding on to any more fiat money. Get get all that changed over into gold, silver, land, medicine, food, and things that are important and needed for survival. And then getting your mental consciousness every day cleaned up by attending to your fears, because they are going to show you higher consciousness faster when you dissolve fear, when you recognize fear and you allow it. So that willingness to do these things is going to be key. And you don't have to be in perfect health for you to benefit from all the energy that's coming on right now. In fact, I always tell people, Sandy, that some of the most precious beings we have on this planet can't even feed themselves. They can't even talk. I've met some souls who are so precious, so powerful, who couldn't even move out of their wheelchair. And that the body they picked was so powerful. Even though we think of it as disabled, that's not what's happening. The consciousness of these beings who chose to be in these very formless bodies and to be so full of love and power, they're elevating humanity. Perfect body is not an outcome of enlightenment. In fact, it's the other way around. A human soul may very well pick a very difficult body and a difficult life in order to offer more light in the world. So I want people to have hope that wherever they're at, they can do this. So that's what I see. This is how we do this consciousness thing over the next 6 months. But I think it's a general plan for the rest of our lives and how we can initiate these changes with grace.
Yes. And, I think, well, grace is always key to so many things. But when you're in the midst of anticipation of change and the next shoe is going to drop, we have taken our nervous systems to be very disabled because we've created that havoc ourselves. And then adding on all the electronics and the news and the information. I mean, I haven't watched the news since the 90s. And if you guys don't know this from our first couple videos ago, I've been working with Elizabeth since like 2016. And it was through my work with her that I met my higher self and was able to go through some huge leaps and jumps to where I am now. And so a lot of people aren't quite didn't start when I did. I mean, I've been on this journey, I feel like all my life. Every couple of years it's like something new and I'm ready to go. And I've had my bags back since 2010. I mean, literally, I own nothing but the clothes on my back, and I'm like ready to go. And someone just said to me last night, like, well, what's that going to look like? And I go, I don't know. I just know that I've been working on my own inner strength and column of light and shedding things so that whatever it is, I just know that I'm going to be safe. I'm not here to be destroyed. I'm here to persevere. And however that looks, I will face it in the moment it appears. So I don't take in all that other information. So when people hear about the wars, I love the way you just explained it. People think about this giant galactic war in the sky that you don't see, or what's happening in another country that just the media is showing you bits and pieces, but to the war of illusion. And I mean, I know there's going to be other stuff that's going to go on, because when these agencies and things that we believed in that we have built up ourselves come tumbling down, the realization of the real truth is going to leave people extremely angry and disillusioned. And so I think you could probably speak to some of that a little bit more about how maybe individuals can find their coping mechanisms. I mean, I know you have courses and everybody will have the links below that they can go in and look at what you offer to help. But for just listening's sake, what else could we add on to here that might be helpful and insightful?
Yeah, I love that you're addressing the anger. um, especially right now. So here we're at the end of 2022. These waves of consciousness have moved through our bodies. It's come through now the root, and deep, deep in the root of that's the feminine power center. And even as men, it's going to hit your root and you're going to actually have very specific things occur. And so it's doing that right now, currently, and that'll unfold over the next month. But the anger piece is key because we misunderstand anger. We are very uncomfortable with anger. We usually see anger as wrath, and wrath is one of the 7 deadly sins. So we tend to avoid anger, especially in Western culture. When someone's angry, it turns everyone off. But there's a different kind of anger, and you can transform it if you put your attention on it. And it's what we would call righteous anger. And righteous anger is very purifying. It's important to go through the anger piece, just like stages of grief. The shattering of illusion has stages too. And anger can be very purifying of your consciousness so that it can get you through that leap, that threshold into things are not the way I thought they were. Now everything's different and I'm uncomfortable. And our initial reaction is anger, but I want you to let it move through you. I don't want you to speak about the anger. When we run it through our voice, it just comes out a mess. So don't vent your anger through your voice, not initially. You can talk about it and process it out loud later if you want to with friends, family, or maybe journaling or something. But first you need to notice the anger in your body. So anger tends to come up from the deep of the body, the depth, often the root, and it'll move through the stomach, then it comes up through the heart and the chest, and then the throat. Now, usually this is when our throat gets really tight, our face gets red, we want to cry, we want to punch something because all this energy is right here in the heart space here with the arms, and that's our first reaction. And then it comes up here and then here, and we start to cry, we rage, we talk. I don't want you to do that. I want you to keep letting it move up and out of the crown. And when you keep breathing it up and out of the crown, it's going to clarify your mind. Righteous anger has a very cool effect on the brain. It causes you to get really sharp. It's what I call the commander experience. There's some folks who go into fight or flight and they want to scream and cry and punch or run away or hide and cry. But there's a tipping point. And if you put your attention on the anger as it rises up, and this is such a powerful tool for anger because anger is going to come up all the time in different ways. But the righteous anger about our reality is so big, it's going to feel really, really big. So you want to know what to do with it now. When you let it move up and out of your crown, it causes you to go into a commander state. In the commander state, everything slows down. Everything becomes crystal clear, even very vivid, even physically vivid. And you feel a little bit bigger than your body. And you start to say, what is the next step? Everything slows down. What's the next step I have to take right now to protect myself and my family or to manage this situation? This happened to me last year when earlier this year, when an elderly friend of mine got hurt. And the people who probably should have cared about her most didn't. And I had righteous anger kick in because this woman was going to die. And so it moved through me, and instead of freaking out, because I didn't want to mess up any of the relationships I had. Anger, if you let it come out of your mouth, folks, you're going to mess something up. So I let it move up through me, and it popped me into this commander state. And everything slowed down, and I knew exactly what steps I needed to take, what phone calls I needed to make in order to make sure this person could get the help they need, and ended up having to go to surgery, and I made all that happen. But it's because of the energetic and the power that took over me. It was very apparent to the other people around me. Now, sometimes you're not the one who goes into the commander state. Sometimes the wrath, the negative type of anger can take over a commander, and then they just throw a fit and they lose all control, right? And then you have to step in. But sometimes somebody can get into that commander state, let that righteous anger run up and out through their body, changing the situation. And if it's not you doing that, then you need to play a support role. And you have to say, hey, how can I help you to get what you need to get done, or change this situation? How can I serve right this moment? That's also a way to shift the anger piece that's going to come up, is to say, well, I might not be the best person to be in command of the situation right now, but I know who is, and I'm going to help them. And that's a really good thing to consider. Well, what are the things that I can do to support the people who come into these commander situations? And so it's going to be either one. Sometimes you're going to be the commander, sometimes you're going to be support. Now, letting anger clarify the situation, then it leads to a much more clear step-by-step of what has to happen in the moment. And that's how you get through these sort of long battles, is all of those smaller moments. It's those little battles. It's those daily battles. It's the daily realizations that win the war. And this war of the shattering of illusion is going to elicit all these different kinds of responses, but it's the people who know how to go into the commander state that are going to actually lead the way. And those who can't go into it and they go into wrath and they break down, well, that's going to be really obvious. So the good news is that this stuff's going to be really obvious. When I say the shattering of illusion, this is a good thing. On the other side, now you get grand and incredible clarity. The kind of clarity you've been wanting for so long. Third eye, heart opened, root open, earth connection level clarity is on the other side of this. And yeah, everything that gets revealed on that other side is going to be really different and interesting. But if you're willing to let the anger clarify your mind and get you into a higher state so that you can see and slow down, what are the next steps that I have to take just today? That's perfect. You don't need to plan the next 6 months, folks. You need to know how to do things now. So it's good to think about the next 6 months, but to leak your energy worrying about it is going to disable you.
Yeah.
So the daily practice of recognizing the difference between wrath and righteous anger, letting it run through, getting into a commander state, knowing how that feels, that's going to be key to us being able to lead the way for our families and our friends.
Yes, I hear you. And, I was thinking of a couple different things there when you were talking is, as we see a lot of this illusion, in your face, getting, we're not going to go into detail because I see it in my own visions, but it's sort of like something is breaking or doesn't work right, and you fix it and you Mickey rig it and you fix it and you remodel and you try to do this and that to get it to work. And there just comes a point in time where you just have to let the whole thing crumble in order to have, I didn't need that. I don't know why I kept agreeing to push that and fix that. And it's just not working. And another thing I was hearing when you were speaking is it goes back to so many messages I get about working on being focused in the today. And that's not easy to do because our mind is always projecting out. We're following our steps, we're looking down, looking where the next foot is going, right? and then all the things on our to-do list, and learning how to maybe lighten up on that to-do list and take some things on that to-do list into the spiritual side of, I'm going to have some calm for 5 minutes and breathe into this. And I am going to replenish all of the elements of my body, right? And all of its sensories, and get it to be in the strongest place that I can be, so that when things do come up, I don't want to, you know, this that we all get, because anger is that. And then we get into this blame, well, if you had done this, you didn't see this. And then, of course, all the things that are happening now, where we have, even in the spiritual communities, are falling apart, because everyone's like, well, you said this was going to happen, and you said this was going to keep going, and it's not. So they're even angry at people. But what if they really thought about it? The anger should be, well, why were you constantly giving your power away to what everyone else was saying,
Yeah.
instead of just stop, drop, sit, connect with that breath, and work on the traumas from within and the emotions from within? When I was a kid, if I got angry, I would clench my fist and bite my cheeks.
Yeah.
And then the anger would come up and out. And so now that I'm adult, I don't do that as much. But when I'm angry, I will step away from a situation. I don't usually blurt out something. And then I have so much more clarity. And I'm not as angry as I was if I had stayed in it and started yelling and maybe throwing things, or so on and so forth. So I think that's what we're going to be seeing a lot more of, is what I'm hearing you say, how to funnel that energy through the chakra system, right?
Yeah. Up and out.
And not use the old fashioned
the, the deep barfing of our laments. Yeah, and I'm also hearing you say, hey, how do we stop leaking our energy into the future? Because it's just worrying about it is leaky. I think it's actually a misunderstanding of time that causes people to do that. And so I like to describe time in a different way, and this helps with the anger piece even as well. But one of the things that's going to shatter is this whole idea of timelines. All these people getting pissed off at each other because they predicted one thing or another, which is a terrible idea, and no one should ever do that. We've just jumped into a parallel timeline. That's a bunch of hooey. Drop it. It's a new age brainwashing thing. It's not real. Time is an ocean. There's so many possibilities. And this is the weird paradox around free will, because people are like, well, do you really have free will if there's these inevitabilities that exist in reality? Well, yeah, it's actually possible in this universe. That's how fabulous this universe is and how amazing your body is. It is possible for you to have free will and for there to be inevitable things in the ocean of time. But the ocean of time, you're micro navigating the ocean all the time. So that's why timelines can't really exist, because there's too many. There's too many possibilities, and they all turn into one thing, just this big ocean. But there's these things called inevitabilities, things that are inevitable. And that's why these folks felt confident that they could say, well, that's going to happen, this thing over here. And they were dumb to do that because an inevitability has a lot of gravity to it. It pulls you in. It's kind of like there's this huge island in the ocean of your life, and this island is perhaps your marriage or the birth of your child or your choice in career or whatever. And we'll make it more personal, because humanity also has inevitabilities too. We have big, huge ones that we're getting drawn into because of its gravity. But it's like an island, and all the currents keep kind of taking you to this island, but it's a round island. And so that means it has an infinite number of ways that you can come into that inevitable moment. So an infinite number of ways for you to hit that island. Now, the currents genuinely take you that way. They also take you away from that because of how the currents of reality work. But if you're not set up way beforehand going towards that inevitability, and you're way over here because you made a bunch of choices in your micro navigation world, in your daily life, you made lots of little choices, like you ended up getting hooked on that one drug, or you drank too much for too long and now you're not healthy anymore, or lots of different possible abuse led you to find yourself in a self-hatred that you can't get out of. These kinds of things, these cause us to micro navigate a certain way. So if you took those many left turns way beforehand and you're going this direction, but the inevitability that calls you is over here and you're way over here, then you don't hit the inevitability. You miss it. And this is why people feel frustrated. They're like, I feel like I missed my chance. Well, kind of, it's that there was an inevitability that you micro navigated away from because you weren't aware, you weren't conscious of the bigger picture or how important your consciousness is. And you fell into whatever processes or issues you have. But that's the cool part about an ocean is, okay, so you might have passed this inevitability because you took all those left turns and you're way out here. That doesn't mean you can't go back. This is why people, they heal, they get sober, they go to therapy, they heal their trauma, and they go get that degree they really wanted. They go find that marriage. They end up having that kid years later when they thought they couldn't anymore. So the inevitabilities of your life, which are laid out for you like a string of islands, you absolutely get to choose exactly when and how you're going to hit those inevitabilities. Now, the big grand inevitabilities of consciousness, they're more like continents where you're not going to miss it because we're heading towards it. And you don't get those in a singular life, you get that in a collective. So the earth and all the humans on it and all the animals on it, we're all heading towards inevitability that's a 12,000 year and an 800,000 year shift that is so big that we don't get to choose whether or not we're going to hit that inevitability, because we chose to be on this planet in this galaxy a long, 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 long time ago. So the choice way down the line to micro navigate whether or not we were going to go through these shifts or not, that's long gone. That choice is long gone. And so every 12,000 years, we hit these inevitable moments, and these are grand collective inevitabilities. So there's all sorts of different possible gravitational pulls to inevitable moments. But when people try to nail down exact precise timing or anything like that, it's because they feel so confident in the way everybody's micro navigating, and then a wrench gets thrown in and people take a whole bunch of left turns and it doesn't happen in the way they thought that it would. So that's why trying to nail something down in psychic consciousness is a waste of time. And why trying to believe about timelines and parallel anything, that's a waste of your time too. What you should focus on is, what do you want? What's your inevitable desires and hopes and dreams? What is your soul here for? What's your purpose? And if you don't know that, that's why Sandy and I are here and people like us, because we can help you. We can help you understand what those are. And then you'll be able to see the inevitabilities for yourself. And then you can micro navigate on your own every day. But if you know what the bigger picture is, then you'll be able to be much happier with how you live your life. So I think that this will help clear up a lot of these frustrations that people have and the leakiness of their energy into the future.
Mm-hmm.
Because they just are misunderstanding time. That's all.
Yeah, and as humans, we don't need to continue to kick our own asses all the time, because that's what we do. These left turns I teach people are lessons that you've learned. Okay, they're lessons that you've learned. You chose them. You can't unchoose them. You've experienced them. So let's look at them as a lesson, good, bad, or indifferent. And then let's start looking how to navigate to what you really do desire. And then perhaps share with others so that possibly they're not making a left turn that you know is going to be painful, even if they choose to still go that way, but you can still assist people.
Yeah.
Open the window up, show people all the different routes that you can take to get to an end result. And we have many purposes and many missions to be here and many experiences through that. You know, it's just like raising our children. We try to teach them, tie your shoe before you go up and down the stairs. Don't touch the hot burner. Do your homework if you would like to achieve a better grade. You know what I mean? And then there's many different ways to do your homework. But, you know, then we get to be grandparents and we look back and we go, you know what, in the scheme of things, that's not that important. Let's get to the happy point and let's have that extra bowl of ice cream and let's commune together at the table and talk and laugh more than the gotta do 10 and 2, which is so much of what is placed in our environment. That, you know, the more you achieve. And when you were talking about, you know, addictions, I mean, we're addicted to got to get that right education and job, and then we have to work really hard at that job, and then we have to have the cookie cutter house, and then the spouse, and then the kids, and then what does that look like when you're a single parent, and all these different things. I mean, there's a multitude of things that are considered left turns.
Yeah.
Right. But I think what you're saying now is, I don't care how many left turns you take, the continent's right in front of you. It's going to smack everybody. So the sooner you wake up and go, ooh, that's going to give me a concussion. I think I want to slow down and navigate this way so I can maybe coast into this a little more
Amen.
with grace,
Amen.
you know? And I think that's why we're here right now. People like you and I is like, okay, guys, if you could just wake up just a little bit, that things are not what they seem, right? And let's start taking control of our individual life so that we can join a better collective.
I love that. You describe it very well. And I love that we do have this chance to slow down a bit and to hit that beach with grace in the right way, in the right place, at the right time. And that's divine timing. That's divine will. And divine will is the ocean of reality. And you're part of the divine will. And so, yeah, none of those left turns are unvaluable. It's the other way around. There isn't anything in consciousness that's not valuable. And that's how Source really sees it. So when you start to recognize, wow, all that suffering I went through, I'm so grateful because now I have more compassion. Now I'm helping people, and I didn't think I could get there, but I did. And that means that there's somebody out there just like me. Doesn't think they can get there, but they can. You know, I tell people sobriety and marriage and being a parent, being a steward of the land, that's something I choose every day. I didn't just get married once. I get married every day.
I love that.
I don't choose to be a parent once. I'm parenting every day. I choose that every day. And you can too. And that's how much of your status is created every day. So ask anyone who's recovering from drugs or alcohol. Sobriety is something you choose every day. And it's very hard, just like everything else, because being a human means you have access to all 12 dimensions of consciousness, not just one. You don't have access to just the 3D. That's why you have an imagination. Your imagination is your connection to the multidimensionality of reality, and why all eyes are on us. Why is there so many interesting beings from all dimensions and all planets and possible consciousness in the universe attending to us right now? Because that's how special and unique and powerful the human body really is. And people aren't realizing that. They take for granted their body because they go online and they watch a bunch of TikToks or YouTubes, and they see all these people, and they begin to normalize what we would call the average human experience. That's not real. That's gonna shatter
What?
too. But what is real? I want people, here's what I do to help people kind of get into how unusual is your body really as a human being. Well, I want you to do a meditation where you pick one of your digits, like one of your fingers or your toes, right? And I want you to just go in and pretend like you're really, really small and go sit inside one of those digits. I like to choose my big toes. And so I'll go sit inside my big toe, and I'll kind of pretend that I'm really, really small, and then I'm going to look at reality from the big toe's perspective. It gives me a whole other appreciation for my toe. But just hanging out and looking at reality from my foot's perspective. The fact that you can do that with your imagination, there isn't any other beings that can do that.
Yeah, and then when you see it from that perspective, everything's up, and then you're right there at the ground, and how important your job as the big toe is for balancing all the other bones.
Exactly.
I mean, there's so much going on from the big toe point of view, and it sounds so silly, but when you can really
silly.
go into that, it's so important. And I wanted to say this to you about the sobriety thing, going through sobriety of the old thought patterns, right? Being sober from maybe your eating habits from the day before, maybe your thought and your routine from the day before, and going through that. But we have to go within and get into our imagination and work from a place of everything's new today, and I choose this today, right? So I like that
every day.
Yeah, I like that, the big toe thing. And go ahead, you had some more tips there.
Oh, well, I think just getting into parts of your body, and then going even smaller, go into a cell and hang out in a cell. It's a whole other world. And then go outside of the self. Go visit another planet. All you have to do is imagine it. That's how easy the third eye is. Everyone thinks it's so hard. That's because, again, there's been a lot of brainwashing of the new age, and just like any other groups on this planet, there's been a lot of control mechanisms put in place, a lot of misunderstandings about things like manifestation and abundance. Most of what's taught about that is just crazy. But the other piece too, if you can go deep into parts of your body, then when you have emotional processes, you can go there too. So I'll always ask people, okay, well, you have this emotion of blank, where is it in your body? And usually people can find it because it'll be a very uncomfortable spot. So let's say it might be in your solar plexus. Well, you can make yourself really small, and you can go sit in your solar plexus and examine what shows up there. Just notice it. Don't try to control it. Try to see what's there. How does it really feel? And when you make yourself little, your consciousness is on a different dimensional plane. You're in the fourth and fifth dimension then. And you're looking at the emotional process in your body as a place. And it begins to reveal a lot more about it. So if this is the self-inquiry process, and you can inquire deeper and deeper and deeper and say, okay, well, why is it made like this? How does that feel? What is this made of? What is this black goo in my solar plexus? What is it made of? And you go into that and into it, and you find the bottom of the pot. Oh my gosh, it's my fear of blank. Or, oh my gosh, it's this terrible relationship that I need to end. Or, wow, it's this trauma that I had kind of forgotten about from ages ago. And the other piece I want to give people is, well, what is the refresh rate of reality? Because there is something that we could literally call the refresh rate of reality. And yeah, you're right. Every day is a brand new day, but it's much more than that. Every single second, reality refreshes 22 trillion times. And humans, if we could ever create something that could refresh that fast, which we can't, but we live in a body that was made to do that. that can be conscious of it, which is amazing. We're going to have to get to the level of creating what we're in currently, which was created too. The human DNA is a powerful technology beyond anything that you could ever imagine so far, because you've been led to believe that you're a certain way and you've forgotten who you are and what your body's capable of. But your body and reality around you is refreshing all the time. And it's 22 trillion times a second. It's the quantum physics refresh rate. Now, what happens in that refresh? What is being refreshed? Well, it's actually all the quantum entanglements that get refreshed. Quantum entanglement is the fact that we're all one, that you're not separate from anything or the reality that you're in, that your attention makes the physical reality occur. When I'm not looking at my cat can be in an infinite number of places, and is technically in an infinite number of places until I look at her. And my attention is so powerful as a soul that I have manifested my cat into physical reality by putting my attention on her. And I am not separate from my cat, therefore I can allow my cat to exist by simply putting my attention on her. So you're entangled with all of the universe. And when you go look at the stars at night, or when you look at the moon, or when Sandy and I look at each other on these computers, we're creating each other. And this is a co-creation. And so when we say co-creation, it's not a new age woo-woo fluffy term. It's a serious term that requires your attention. That's how precious your attention is. And when you put your attention on the craziness of the illusion, then you have manifested it into reality by putting your attention on it. So you're using the 22 trillion times refresh rate of the entanglement of the universe all the time in order to create reality. And your body does that. And it's not something that happens without you. It's happening because of you. And your body keeps choosing to be with you, to be part of you as a immutable part of consciousness. Your consciousness never goes away, it never changes, it never disappears. That's why people call it the immortal soul. And it animates reality with your attention. So, if we could bring it all around to a singular, most important point, what are you putting your attention on? When I choose to have my marriage, when I choose to be sober, when I choose to be a parent, be a steward of the land, I'm putting my attention on those things, and I'm elevating them, I'm expanding them, I'm allowing them to unfold in my field, because I am that powerful of a creator, and so are you. If you're in a human body, that's what you are capable of doing. That's why all eyes are on us, and why it's so important that your attention doesn't get taken away from you.
And that's what we're in the middle of right now.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of more and more AI getting created to be a big, huge distraction. And you have the power to step away from it. You just have to put your intention and attention on that, and then have the courage to take action with it and be consistent with it. And that's, I think, goes back to the daily sobriety. I am going to commit to this today, and be in that space. And when we're in a space of consciousness and not riding off of the subconscious old programming, we have a tendency now to be more aware of our hearts and what feels good in the moment. You know what I mean? And we have suppressed so much of our feelings. That's a sensory that isn't getting a lot of attention. And when it does, people might not know what to do with it. So then they want to go stuff that as well, because feelings can be like all over the place. And you have to learn how to skill it, how to hone it, how to make it a master tool, not something that's insane, right?
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah,
know we're running out of time, but I think you have a couple more things you'd like to say.
sure. I want to address the AI and, how do you make sure you're not being drawn into this false virtual world, and why shouldn't you? So the reason why this false virtual world was created in the first place was for two reasons: to better track human consciousness and to try to better guide it, or rather manipulate it. But for the end being that there is a belief by those that sort of buy into this artificiality that the universe isn't already perfect. There is a very powerful belief that drives the creation and the attempt to replace humanity with transhumans, etc. There's a drive because there's a belief that the universe is not already perfect, and that there can be made a universe that's more perfect. And so this bigger, grander intelligence that isn't based in any sort of human binary at all, that kind of intelligence doesn't use ones and zeros. And this consciousness, which is, part of a very large sort of collective of what we might call power over dynamic control groups. These groups want to have power over at the expense of you. And they believe that they can make a more perfect universe. And so by examining humanity over a very long period of time, and then hooking humanity up into this virtual world, many things occurred. One of them was unexpected. Suddenly we got globally conscious of each other and started to care about each other at a global level, and they didn't expect that. And we might call that global consciousness. That happened in 2009. And so the other thing that they've been tracking is, well, what makes people suffer? What makes people suffer? And they have their own ways and methods of understanding what they think makes us suffer. One of the things they decided that makes us all suffer is gender. So they've been trying to throw that out. And I mean biological gender. And so the, that goes into a very long discussion around, well, how did all of these people over such a short period of time now suddenly not believe in what had been normalized as a traditional concept of gender for so long? Because the attempt at sort of this algorithmic based influence was, well, if we get humans to throw out gender, they'll suffer less. But I haven't seen that occur. So that agenda didn't work because it's just created more suffering. And yeah, there's suffering. That's the thing. This whole virtual thing wants us to be in a state of non-suffering. So it literally has pumped you full of dopamine, dampened all of your emotional depth, and replaced it with hearts and emojis and thumbs up and thumbs down. It's made it all very shallow in an attempt to end suffering, which that's the whole wrong approach that all of these things actually have. I understand all of how it works, but the thing is the basis of its approach is inherently wrong, because there's nothing wrong with suffering. The suffering is so precious. It's half of reality. Half of the universe is dark. Half of the universe is dense. Half of the universe has duality in it. And that's built in. It's because in natural law, suffering is extremely valuable. You end up leveling your whole species because you suffer. And here you thought you were all alone, suffering all by yourself, miserable in the dark, in the hole, in the jail. That's not true. You're entangled with everything else and everyone else. The jail is your illusion that you've allowed. And now you can be done. So then you have to literally get strong in yourself and say, Suffering has great value to it. That is your ticket out of the matrix. Suffering has great value to it. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Yes, of course, gender has created great suffering. We've had the patriarchy, we've had women as second-class citizens, we've had child labor, we've had all sorts of interesting suffering. We've learned a lot from it too. And we're still going to learn because this whole entire universe is built on that. So don't let this lie that ultimately is the virtual world and the transhuman agenda, don't let that lie convince you that humans aren't already perfect, that reality is not already perfect. In the 11th dimension of consciousness, everything's perfect. All of the density and darkness and suffering is exactly where it's supposed to be at the exact right time. And that level of trust is something you can get to if you don't already have it. But you have to keep believing in yourself and recognize how much power you have. So now we're coming into empowerment. Now it's their worst nightmare, an empowered human who says, I'm going to serve humanity and the earth and nature and consciousness, and I'm going to be in service, not for myself, not at the expense of others, but to be in service as a sovereign being. That's their worst nightmare. And that's exactly what we are, because we're not going to budge.
Well, Elizabeth, the one thing that was coming up there for me when you were talking, besides all of that, is and I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole about it, but all the organized religions that God is outside of you, and if I just pray out there, everything will be better here, versus looking at the God within you and having action with that, not looking at it with something outside of you, and then you'll get the reward later, right? It's looking at the God spark, the energetics, the consciousness from within you, and taking the action in that, from that form with yourself through the heart center, versus everything being outside of you, which is what we've been talking about the whole time. I think that creates a lot of suffering. It's like, well, I prayed about that, but nothing's changed. I don't understand. It's because you're praying to what you feel is a God object out there versus the God object within you, and then making the change within here and moving through that and seeing the change occur here. Does that make sense?
It does. And I kind of have a slightly different view on it. I believe
Do
that
share.
I do believe that we do have this immutable consciousness that we would call a soul. We have many names for it. It doesn't change. It doesn't go away. And it's a facet of, or we might say like an atom in the embodiment of something bigger. So it's actually both. There is sort of this source God outside of you and the piece of source inside of you. And that prayer isn't the problem necessarily, because I pray. And when I pray, I'm doing it in a certain way. The trick is that they try to pray for things that they hope will happen, or they pray for changes they want because they're attached to a certain outcome. And so that leads us to, well, what is distorting your prayer in order for you to feel like God doesn't listen to you, even though you're not disconnected or separate from God? And the trick is to recognize egoic structure. If you're attached to a certain outcome and you're praying for a certain outcome, that inevitability is going to be very unlikely, because you're attached to a certain outcome, and you're going to expect certain things to occur for that outcome to outplay, instead of being able to surrender to the divine will and the divine field and the divine timing that all things actually work in beyond you. That's what you're missing, is that and I'm not saying you, Sandy, but that's what most people end up missing, is that they should be praying for the divine will and the divine timing to be more clarified for them, instead of trying to pray for an outcome. And then drop all your expectations. If you expect source to work in a certain way, then you're limiting source, which created all possible reality. Please don't do that. Don't put source in a box. You'll find that magic happens, the beauty of miracles really happen when you stop expecting things to work a certain way. And you'll enjoy and notice more about the nature of reality when you drop expectation anyway. And you'll enjoy the people around you a lot more when you stop expecting them to do stupid stuff or be a certain way. Stop expecting them to do anything and you're going to see new stuff. And then the other piece is people judge. They run their discernment through their trauma, and that creates expectations and judgments. And when you are mad at God because your prayer didn't come true, well, then you're running your discernment of the truth of God's will and the divine will and timing that you're part of, this ocean of reality and power and light. You're literally judging that. And it's going to be very distorted and make you dislike God and eventually make you dislike your own soul. I literally have clients who've said to me, I hate my own soul. Why would my soul have been so stupid to have come into this life? Things like that. That's how deep that trauma and judgment distort reality. And then the last trickiest one is resistance. You know, we resist suffering and we say, God, why would you do this to me? I'm a good person. Why would God make good people like me suffer? You're completely misunderstanding reality. You're not understanding that there is nothing like that, that suffering isn't a problem. And I realize that people have been through hell and back. And so many of us have experienced what we would call hell. And that hell is very real. It also is an opportunity beyond all opportunities to never go to hell again. Because once you go there, you don't want to go back. And you're going to do everything you can to make sure you don't go there. And everyone else around you too. And you're going to see it. But if you hadn't have been there, you wouldn't have been able to tell if the people around you were in hell or not. So this is very key. These are traps in consciousness. And organized religion, I find it extremely important to study it because it has pieces of a history that we've been missing. It has mysticism and really specific pieces of information that got held in perpetuity and protected in a organized structure for perpetuity, just like big, huge monuments of stone. And those monuments of stone are just as important and hold just as many truth pieces of the bigger puzzle as all the organized religions do. So instead of ignoring the religions, I say go learn about as many as you can. Read as many ancient texts as possible. Be very open and anthropological about learning about the different belief systems, the timing, the histories. Compare all the notes and you're going to see a bigger, greater picture that puts us into a galactic history that's much larger than this. What we're being lied to about is this little short, teeny weeny fake human history. That's not true. And we're part of a much bigger one. And the organized religions were one way that our ancient ancestors were able to preserve information for us. So embrace as many possible books and ancient texts and learn about the concepts and mysticism in the religions as you can, because you're going to get a bigger picture if you're willing to do that. So that's how we end this whole issue around praying outside of us. I don't think that's the problem so much as then recognizing, well, I am part of this divine timing, so I'm going to pray for divine will and divine timing. I'm going to pray for clarity. I'm going to pray for the end of my expectations and attachments to outcomes. I'm going to trust that the source field is so much more, billions and trillions and zillions of times more creative than I am as just a tiny part of that huge source field. But I'm also going to appreciate my part in it as a creator and have more conscious intent around my attention. So that's how I might shift it. It's my slightly different viewpoint on these things.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love the looking at the ancient texts and following and learning about different religions. I mean, that's what I've always done. I've never kept myself in a brick and mortar box. And to let go of the films and the books that have been taken out and go and find them and read them and learn from all of it, because there is a lot of deep wisdom there, but it can't be your only space of going, because a lot of people are going directly into that, and it's like, oh, if I read my Bible today, if I do this prayer, if I do that, then I'm a good person and that's what defines me. And they're not getting a little bit deeper into the ancient part of what that really is all about.
Yeah,
I think that's really the point I was trying
of
to
course.
make there. But your thing was amazing as always. As
Thank you.
always. Well, I guess our time is up, because I know you've got a lot of things to do today, but we finally were able to catch up, and I will have all of Elizabeth's links in the description. We really appreciate your likes, subscribes, your shares, your comments. It's just important to help circulate this information so that somebody over there can hear it and see it, and somebody over there can hear and see it. And that's what's kind of gets the movement of the water underneath of our video gets us floating around out there. So anything else you'd like to end with, my lady?
Just an empowerment, go deep into your body, recognize that your body is your greatest tool in consciousness. And it's so much more complex and fantastic than we have been led to believe. The truth is we don't remember very much about the body. We've been discovering new organs, new systems in the body in the past few years. So we don't know very much about our systems and how our body really works. And it's because we have to remember. And if you really want to remember more, then keep working on your trauma. Recognize that your trauma is something worth treasuring, that it happened for a reason, so that you could become more expansive, more compassionate, and much stronger. And when you're in that position of commander, when that time comes, because it will come for all of us, it always does. If you're listening to this with Sandy, or you follow Sandy at all, or myself, then you know that you're not here to mess around. This isn't a vacation. It's that we're supposed to be doing this transition work so that we can have the, many thousands of years of the golden age at our fingertips. That's what we're moving towards. And right now we're going through the dismemberment, the dissolving of the systems that kept us from that. And part of it's going to be reclaiming the masculine and feminine dynamic within us. So allow yourself to be angry. Allow yourself to stand in your power. Recognize you're not separate from the source God that's around you, and the divine timing and the divineness of reality. And keep making those choices, those micro choices every day. Choose. And when you find yourself feeling weak or depressed or sad, then go and put your attention on the connections that prayer can give you, the connections that meditation offers you to the bigger source. And if that's still hard, then listen to stuff like this. Put your attention on really uplifting, empowering, conscious conversations like this. Then you have that. There's lots and lots of this, and Sandy gives you access to so many cool people, and so many people like Sandy. Trust that those are going to be the things that can get you back into a position of feeling empowered again. Surround yourself, cultivate the garden of your consciousness with these kinds of things, and you really can't go wrong. So ultimately, my hope is that anyone who listens to this gets exactly what they need out of it today, and can not only just love their Bible, but love the whole of the history of spiritual consciousness as a whole thing too, include everything. So that way we can actually do real inclusion through connecting to the source and everything that's available. But trust that you have it, that it's available at your fingertips, everything you need. Everything you need. Put your attention on the right things and you'll see what you need. So, thank you, Sandy. I always do love connecting with you and having these deep conversations.
I love it too. And the key word there is trust, which you ended with. The key word is there's trust that you have everything at your fingertips, and trust within yourself and the God source within yourself, and allow things to guide you. And don't spend all this time kicking your own ass. It's not going to serve you. Learn your lessons. Take your left and right turns. You'll get there. You'll get there.
Yes.
All right. Well, Elizabeth, stay put, but I'm going to sign off here. So goodbye, everybody. See you on the next show.